It's 2 in the morning. You have to be awake in 6 hours. But you don't really care. There's just one more episode. You started watching this anime today and just had to binge all of it before you went to sleep because it's so good. A classic. A masterpiece. How have you never watched this before? Why isn't everybody talking about this show? It's perfect. Then suddenly, it's over. You're confused. Is there another season you don't know about? A movie? An OVA maybe? You must have missed something, because there's just no way this amazing show had such an anticlimactic wet fart of an ending. But no, that's it. We've all been there, and now as you go to bed, the question keeps looping around your head. How much did I like this anime? About 6 months ago I watched Wonder Egg Priority, and asked myself this exact question. For those that don't know, this anime is quite well known for having a really poor ending. I watched it knowing this, and I was still blindsided by how shitty it was. After I finished watching, I really wanted to make a YouTube video about it. You know, take the piss a little and give it a title along the lines of more like Blunder Egg Priority, am I right? But I just couldn't find the right words when I was writing the script, because I was unsure how I even felt about the show. The first 10 episodes or so, it was genuinely a 10 out of 10 for me. It felt so special and unique, kinda like Serial Experiments Lane. Then the last 2 episodes just shit all over the story up to that point and made me angry at what I was watching. It wasn't even that the ending was necessarily bad. They just started adding more questions and plot points at a point in the story that should have been ending them and giving us closure. I don't know if the writers were planning on making another season or just didn't know how to wrap things up, but that was straight up the most unsatisfying ending I've ever seen. So there's the problem. Did I actually like this anime? Do I recommend it to people based on how good most of the show was? Or do I tell them to avoid it because the last couple of episodes were so nonsensical and infuriating? Anime endings can truly be a mixed bag. There's some you watch that absolutely blow your mind and truly had the power of God and anime on their side. Then there's others where you're wondering if the author had a stroke while they were writing the last page. The majority of endings fall squarely in the average territory, but the question I'm concerned with, and one I've never really been able to form a solid opinion on, is how much does an ending actually matter? Endings have always been a hot topic for not just anime, but all works of fiction. A good ending can take a story from decent to amazing for a lot of people, while a bad ending can make everyone forget how good the rest of the story was. Game of Thrones is one of the best examples you'll ever see from this. The popularity of that show was insane. Everyone was talking about it. Your friends were discussing plot theories, your fucking grandma was posting Jon Snow fan art. It was everywhere. Then it had a shitty ending that pissed off the audience, and it was like Game of Thrones had just been instantly deleted from the cultural zeitgeist. People would only bring up the show in reference to how bad the ending was. It was like the good parts of the story had never even happened. As a cultured book reader, I already thought the show was shit well before the ending. But it was so weird to see such a phenomenon disappear from people's thoughts overnight because of a bad ending. But why? Why does the ending eliminate everything that came before it? People seem to be far more forgiving to a story that starts out bad and then gets better. Most people will agree that Hunter x Hunter is a great anime. But fuck me, do you guys remember how bad those first few episodes were? I remember when I first watched it, I thought it was some collective joke I wasn't in on, that everyone would recommend this shitty ass show to troll new anime fans. But obviously Hunter x Hunter got better after its first few episodes, and now everyone talks about it as if those shitty parts didn't happen or weren't really that bad. But endings are different. This is the conclusion to a story that's being built up, and the final part of it you'll interact with. And if the ending is bad, then that stigma will stay with it forever, and no one will ever recommend the show without explicitly warning that the ending is bad. A lot of people turned on Attack on Titan after the ending, and don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything for all of you anime-only watchers. Well, I guess the anime's finished too now, but regardless, it's not an exaggeration to say that the ending was massively divisive. And a lot of people that didn't like the ending were talking about how Attack on Titan had been ruined. Now, I'm one of those weirdos that actually liked the ending, but even if I didn't, I guess I don't understand how that can affect everything that came before it. Attack on Titan may not be the greatest story, but where I think it excels is in its big climaxes and reveals. Attack on Titan has some of the most memorable individual moments in all of anime, despite the parts in between maybe not being as strong as other shows. I still get emotional every time I think of scenes like that Bertholdt and Reiner one, or Eren confronting Reiner, or fuck, even the entire Raid of Liberio arc. These particular moments are top tier to me, and I guess I just don't understand how these parts can retroactively become worse just because of a bad ending. Berserk is one of the best stories ever made, and we may realistically never see an ending for that, or at least not the ending Miura would have given us. But even with no ending or a scuffed ending based on Miura's plans, I will never treat Berserk as anything less than a masterpiece, because Berserk has already done enough things amazingly that a shitty ending can't change that. I guess length is another factor that comes into play. For things like Berserk or Attack on Titan that have already accomplished so much with their stories, it's easier to brush off a poor ending and just remember the stronger parts. But for something like Wonder Egg Priority that's only 12 episodes long, the ending is actually a pretty fair portion of the entire story. So if around 10% of the show was awful, can you still consider the whole thing to be good? When I watched Erased, I remember thinking that it was pretty decent for the most part, but that poor ending really soured my opinion of it. Again, probably because for such a short anime, the ending is a more vital part for the story's strength. Erased is also a mystery story, so I guess the payoff at the end is far more important than it would be for, say, Bocchi the Rock, since a mystery's goal is to build up to a big climax and make everything come together. So if that's done poorly, then what was the point of everything that came before it? The other side of the coin would be something like Anohana, which I thought was pretty average for the most part, but due to its fantastic ending, I now remember it in a much more positive light than I probably should. As a side note, Anohana is probably the most emotionally manipulative anime I've ever seen. Not to get all Prince Andrew medically I can't sweat about this, but I actually have an issue with my tear duct that makes it kinda hard for me to form tears in my right eye, but I still had the full waterworks rolling out after that ending. So we can't talk about anime endings without talking about the holy grail of anime endings, Code Geass. Damn, this thing is so good it'll drain your balls and get the mean kids at school to stop teasing you. Or so I've heard. I haven't actually seen it. I made it about 10 episodes into Code Geass and decided I didn't want to sit through another 40 to see the payoff. Now let's assume the ending of Code Geass is as good as everyone claims it to be. Will that make it worth it to watch the full show when you weren't enjoying it? I don't know. Maybe it really is that good. Maybe I didn't give the show enough of a chance and it stops being such a slog later on. Regardless, Code Geass is considered an anime classic by most people, and I'd wager a large reason for that is because of how amazing the ending was. The last thing I want to talk about is expectation. It's natural to build massive expectations for an ending when an anime has been so brilliant up to that point, but when something builds up so much hype, it becomes pretty hard to meet those lofty standards for an ending. I really feel bad for a lot of creators that have to write an ending with the entire internet breathing down their neck and critiquing every aspect of their work. If Attack on Titan didn't have such colossal popularity, I'm sure people would have been more satisfied at the end. But people had spent years hyping it up as the greatest story in fiction, so obviously it was going to be impossible to meet those expectations at the end. Even outside of anime, Cyberpunk 2077 was being hyped up as the greatest game ever made by the internet before it even came out. So even if it hadn't released as a bug-ridden mess, I'm sure it would have still been a disappointment. And I'm sure that if something like Berserk or A Song of Ice and Fire are ever actually finished, people that have been waiting for those conclusions for literal decades will not have their expectations met no matter how good the endings may be. So I guess my point is, while endings may be important, and it may be fun to rip on shitty ones, we shouldn't get mad when an author doesn't reinvent the wheel and revolutionize storytelling with the ending. We should just appreciate great works of fiction that have finally been completed, without getting sucked into the hole of expectation. Then maybe we'll be able to enjoy media for what it is, and leave the rage bait to the Redditors. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more weeb shit.